I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting, and if you will rise, and we're going to have County Manager Alan Hours do the invocation, and County Commissioner, who'd I ask? Oh, David O'Quinn lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for the opportunity to gather to discuss county business this evening. And we do so, Father, because of the freedom we have in our nation and our community. We're thankful, Father, for those men and women who are here in our nation and around the world protecting our freedoms so we can assemble here this evening. And Father, we pray for our first responders. They're out every day making sure that we live in a safe community and meeting the needs of our citizens who are in need of help every day. We just pray for your safety and protection for them. I pray for the Board of Commissioners tonight, that you would be with them, Father. You'd give them wisdom and guidance and help the decisions they make be pleasing in your sight. And we give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and be seated. We have one individual signed up for the public comment period tonight. Mr. Wilson, if you'd step up to the podium and state your name for the record.
Thank you for your time. My name is Garrett Wilson. I am not a local resident. I am a local business owner. My business is at 217 Longview Plaza. I am in the golf cart business, and I would just like to state my opinion about the current golf cart laws and things that we have that we're considering or considered already. I've been doing business on this island for 14 months, and that does seem like a short time. I have not experienced and have been diligently looking for the elusive golf cart bandit that clogs the traffic all the time. I have every day seen cars backed up and going below the speed limit and a traffic problem in general. I'm sure that they exist, but I have told myself I'm going to catch these people that are going to ruin it for all of us. I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. I haven't been able to do that one time in 14 months of traveling on and off this island. I do agree that it may exist, but I have not witnessed it. The problem at hand, in my opinion, is that we're adopting some old, out-of-date, or some out-of-touch laws that Georgia has, and I'm not sure that they're really needed. It's basically going to alienate 50% of the people that own golf carts on this island and deem them not being able to make legal on the road to be an LSV. The gas golf cart can be PTV, but it can't be made LSV. The gas golf cart has a better capability to go highway speeds than the electric golf cart does. It's kind of messed up in my opinion. I have a couple hundred customers in this predicament. Most of them are on St. Simon's Island. Most of them live in a neighborhood down the way that simply want to go to the beach or go to the ice cream shop or Southern Soul on a Friday night with their family or so forth and grab a bite to eat and just use their golf cart in a island type manner. That again is my observation from getting in touch with most of my customers. Last night I was listening and spoke for just a moment, and I asked the attorney a few questions. They challenged me with finding some communities that have adopted special PTV laws. There's a big difference between a PTV and an LSV that might suit our county better. And I found 5 counties in the state of Georgia that have this. If somebody wants to maybe take notes, or I'll be glad to furnish it later. St. Mary's, Georgia, Blakely, Georgia, Camellia, Georgia, Covington, Georgia, Monroe, Georgia, Paulding County, Georgia, and Stone Mountain. They all have adopted PTV laws that let people operate as an LSV with certain conditions, mainly by designating 1 or 2 thoroughfares for people to get from point A neighborhood to B neighborhood. So I understand it's a very complicated, sticky situation, but I really have hundreds of customers that are caught in the middle. And all of those are local residents. I don't rent golf carts. I shouldn't say that. I have 2 that I use for demos. I'm not in the rental business. All of my customers that live here are here that live on this island. And I have probably had 200 come in my doors and are very concerned and very aggravated, mainly because there's not a lot known. A lot of them have already tried to make their golf cart an LSV. They go to the tag office. They don't never do that. They don't know what to do. Everybody's caught in the middle. And it's just, I feel like that the deadline is barreling down on us. Maybe we didn't research it enough. Maybe we didn't talk about it enough. And I do appreciate your time. I'm not going to take up all night. The other thing is that there's 3 other points. The results, I believe if we leave this alone, like it or not, golf carts are kind of, in my opinion, part of this island's feel. Kind of special. Kind of like, hey, we get to do this here and nowhere else, and it's all about family, and it's about going down to the village or going to the beach. And I do believe that's a part of this island, whether we want to recognize that or not. That's one thing that I think will change eventually. It'll take a few years, but I think that'll go away, and a lot of people that visit this island and so forth will feel differently. I estimate about 500 people will be impacted by this. I don't have real research, just off what I talk to people. And the other thing is that in the last 4 to 6 weeks, it has hurt my business by 80%. I do not believe I employ 4 people. I will probably do $1.5 to $2 million in business this year. If this didn't happen, and in the last 6 weeks, it's down 80%. So, but I am American, and if that's what we decide and go with, I'll make changes and deal with it, and I may have to close up shop and try again another day, and that'll be okay if that's what happens. But it is affecting a lot of people, and I wish that we would reconsider or think of not a way around it, because I agree they do need to be safer. And I am a manufacturer of LSVs. I actually would benefit the very most if you said all LSVs, you've got to have an LSV. I make them. I would sell more. The other golf cart guys, they don't make them. But it would hinder so many people that I just don't think that's American. But anyway, that was some of my points. If somebody wants me to share my list later on or afterwards of the 5 counties that made some designated thoroughfares to get around this, I'll be glad to do that. But I really appreciate your time. I appreciate living in America and having the courtesy to get up here and speak my opinion. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to add item 26 to the agenda to consider adoption of an amendment to Chapter 2-5 of the Glynn County Code of Ordinances revising Article 9 Glynn County Nuisance Abatement Code to adopt and enact an entirely new nuisance abatement code to enact a procedure for the abatement of structures that are dilapidated or unfit for human habitation and for other purposes.
Commissioners, we have a motion and a second to add an item to the agenda. Any discussion? There being none, I call the motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you, Commissioners. We've got a couple of proclamations tonight to issue, and make sure I'm on the right page. The first one we're going to issue is we're going to present a proclamation designating Friday, October 11, 2019 as Pink Out Friday and encouraging citizens to wear pink this day to increase awareness of breast cancer. I'm going to invite Ms. Delria Baisden to come up, if you would, to the podium. And if you want to say a few words, let us know what this is about. And then I'm going to do the proclamation.
Thank Thank you. I'm Delria Baisden, Vice President with Southeast Georgia Health System. I have a couple of guests with me. Zarek Samples. Zarek's day job is with the Community Action Authority here that serves all of Georgia, but he also is supporting us as a pink bigwig for 2019, raising money for the Coastal Georgia affiliate of Susan Komen. And we also have a volunteer here with us from Susan G. Komen as well. Pink Out Friday is in recognition of all of the women and men who are diagnosed both in our communities and throughout the nation with breast cancer. Many of you may be aware, but 1 in 8 women during the course of her lifetime will be diagnosed with breast cancer. It's a challenge to come across anyone in our community or the surrounding communities who have not been impacted in some way by this diagnosis, either themselves, their sisters, their mothers, their colleagues, or their next door neighbors or church members. So this day is in recognition of the challenges that they face and the support that we as a community will give to breast cancer survivors, and also through our affiliation with Komen and the fundraising that we are doing with Komen to continue to research so that we will make breast cancer a part of our past and not our future moving forward. So I will give Zarek an opportunity to talk about the campaign that he is doing, if you don't mind, and garner support for the fundraising.
Absolutely. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zarek Samples. I serve as the Chief Development Officer for Coastal Georgia Community Action. But this year I was elated to be selected as a bigwig because for 2 reasons. There was a relative of mine in 2016, the same age as me, went to the same high school, Brunswick High School, class of 2005, who was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she has 3 beautiful children in our school systems currently. And she had to take a huge leave of absence due to this disease. And I wanted to support her in this, as well as one of our current co-workers at Community Action, a male, same age, has beat breast cancer twice. And I felt that more than just raising money for individuals who were, people always think of breast cancer being as a grandmother or older mother situation, but this thing is real. And if we don't find out how to address it, then it's gonna really just mess up our entire world. So I want to support those individuals who are currently dealing with it, and for helping those individuals to really come out with a success as we look at eliminating breast cancer.
One of the things that Zarek raises money for is to provide free breast health services to women and men in our communities who can't afford access to care. So through the funds that he raises, these folks get free mammograms, free diagnostic services, and ultrasounds as well. So it's a very important cause, and we appreciate you giving us the opportunity to come and talk about it this evening. If I may approach, I do have pink ribbons for everyone.
We'll tell you what, just hold on to them and we'll do the proclamation, and then we'll get all of you up here and you can hand them out. Before I do the proclamation, you know, I just want to thank you all for coming and advocating for breast cancer. You know, the awareness of it and how important it is to do that. My wife has battled breast cancer. It's been probably 26 years ago. And we made the decision, and I want people to hear this, but we made the decision to stay right here in Glynn County to get all her surgeries, to get her chemo, to get her radiation. And treatments have come a long way since then.
They have.
And she was actually told at that time that she probably wouldn't survive it. Well, she has survived it. So I'd like to say, anybody that's not checking, especially women, if you're not checking yourself, you need to check yourself. If you need a buddy to help you check yourself, please do that. If you think you need to see a doctor, get to a doctor. The sooner you get there, the better your chances of survival are. So, you know, we come a long ways, and it can be scary. The C word's a big scary word, but we have to deal with it. So, if you will, I'm going to read this proclamation. Okay, proclamation, designation, Friday, October 11, 2019 as Pink Out Friday. Whereas nationally, over 246,000 women and men are diagnosed with breast cancer each year. And in 2019, breast cancer continues to be a common cause of cancer in the Southeast Georgia region. And whereas October is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month with the aim of increasing awareness of the disease and facilitating research into its causes, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, and cure. And whereas the health and well-being of our community are enhanced as a direct result of increased awareness and education regarding breast cancer, and from encouraging our citizens to take actions to lower their risk of developing the disease. And whereas we are joining Southeast Georgia Health System, the Susan G. Komen Coastal Georgia Affiliate, the American Cancer Society, and communities across Southeast Georgia in proclaiming Friday, October 11, 2019 as Pink Out Friday. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Glynn County Board of Commissioners that it hereby designates Friday, October 11, 2019 as Pink Out Friday, and by encouraging our citizens to wear pink on this day to increase awareness of this disease, to show support and recognition of our neighbors, family, and friends who have been impacted by breast cancer, and to take an active role in helping to make breast cancer a part of our past and not our community's future. In witness whereof, I set my hand this third day of October 2019. Michael F. Browning, Chairman. If y'all would come up, come around this way. Chief Jordan, would you and any of your firefighters want to come up to the podium? Would you like to tell us a little bit about what's going on?
Yes, sir, I would. In honor of Memorial Sunday for all fallen firefighters, 119 of which died last year, and in honor of Fire Prevention Week, which was enacted by President in 1926. The dedication to Fire Prevention Week, you all may remember, and you've noticed in your lifetime a reduction in fires that has been brought forth by public education, by codes, by enhanced building, by contractors, by the public, and by industry. Fire Prevention Week has reduced the average fire deaths down to approximately 3,500 a year. Firefighters, EMS people, police officers, all serve the public. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for honoring the fire service in general in this particular week.
Chief, thank you very much. And speaking for the board, I know they're honored, to be here so we can recognize our fire department, our wonderful men and women of the fire department who serve every day to protect this community. It's a very dangerous job, and it requires a lot of training and a lot of skill and the utmost dedication. I don't think I'm cut out to be a fireman, I can tell you that. I hate fires. But I'd like to remind the community while we're here, there's a wonderful memorial service every year. We don't know when it's going to be this coming year, probably February or March, April. But, be on notice for it. But there's a wonderful memorial service. And I was at it this past year. All the firemen that have served, that have gone before us, their names were recognized, they were remembered. And I'm not so sure a lot of people knew what was going on, so I want to help get the word out. And, maybe we can do a little bit better job this year getting that word out, because they do need to be honored. But it was a great service, and I will proceed with the proclamation. Proclamation recognizing Fire Prevention Week. Whereas Glynn County, Georgia is committed to ensuring the safety and security of all those living and visiting Glynn County, and whereas fire is a serious public safety concern, and homes are where people are at the greatest risk to fire, and whereas the citizens, visitors, and guests of the county will be educated about the need to be ever vigilant in their environment to the dangers of fire and the ways to prevent fire from occurring, and whereas Glynn County Fire Rescue will review plans, inspect premises, and make recommendations to enhance fire safety for building occupants. And whereas the Glynn County Fire Rescue Department will advocate, assist, review, revise, and promulgate laws, rules, regulations, and codes that will strengthen and lead to a more fire-safe environment. And whereas the department will apply fire codes and standards through education, engineering, and enforcement, with consistency and fairness in the pursuit of increasing life safety and reducing fires. And whereas Glynn County firefighters are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire deaths and injuries through prevention and education. And whereas Glynn County residents are responsive to public education measures and are able to take personal responsibility to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. And whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value and accomplishments of the fire service in Glynn County, and now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of the County of Glynn that the week of October 6 through 12, 2019 is proclaimed Fire Prevention Week, in witness whereof I set my hand this third day of October 2019, Michael F. Browning. Chief, y'all want to step up to the front? Public hearing, alcoholic beverage license. Public hearings will be limited to 30 minutes for each opposing side, with 5 minutes allocated to each individual speaker. Comments are to be limited to relevant information regarding your position and should avoid being repetitious. If your group has a spokesperson, please allow that individual to present your group's position in the time allocated. Your cooperation in this process will be greatly appreciated. Item 3, consider the issuance of a 2019 alcoholic beverage license to Bruno Patel for Mason 123 Inc., DBA Top Line Spirits, 3725 Community Road, Brunswick, Georgia. The license is to sell distilled spirits, malt beverages, and wines not for consumption on premise of a retail package store. Sunday sales permitted. Bruno Patel, licensee. Chief?
Yes, sir. Chairman, Board of Commissioners, the applicant meets all the requirements as articulated by the code. He is present tonight.
Okay, this is a public hearing. We'll open it up for those in favor of the application. If you want to come up and state your name at the podium. Those in favor? All right. Seeing none, hearing none. Those that oppose? Last call for those that oppose. Okay, public hearing is over. Commissioners? Anyone want to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant's in compliance. I move to approve the issuance of the 2019 alcoholic beverage license to Mason 123 Inc., DBA Top Line Spirits, 3725 Community Road in Brunswick, Georgia. License to sell distilled spirits, malt beverage, and wine not for the consumption on premise of a retail package store. Sunday sales permitted.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I call the motion. Those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve consent agenda, general business, and finance committee, with exception of any item that a commissioner wishes to approve for discussion, or remove for discussion.
Second.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to pull item 19 for discussion.
Item 19. Okay, Commissioners, we have a motion and a second to approve all items on consent agenda, general business, and finance, with the exception of item 19. Do we have a second on that? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is unanimous. Item 19, approve a contract change order for the Altama Connector Spur 25 Intersection Improvement Project, DuPont Company, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, in the amount of $45,158.20, with funding to be provided from the SPLOST 2016 fund. Mr. Dave Austin.
So during the design of our SPLOST project, we presented the plan to GDOT, and GDOT said, well, we could give you some money for some double lefts off the spur onto Altama Connector. And we said, boy, that'd be great. How much can you give us? And the first letter came back, said $150,000. And we asked them, and said, well, how about a little more? And they said, how about $250,000? And we said, well, that's better. But, and I said, well, we give it to you as an LMIG, which is kind of nice. We know how LMIGs are done. We used one on Southport. They say, but they said, you know, we give you this money, it's just for construction. You got to design it yourself. So when we did the one out at Southport, we designed that in-house. We have Pond designing this. And so we asked Pond for a proposal to design this. And they came back with a typical engineering proposal, which shows how much an engineer costs per hour to do certain things. And my engineer looked at that. And their first proposal was $60,000. And so Ben says $60,000, that sounds like a little much. And how about, I don't think it's going to take that long to design. And so they came back with a second proposal of $45,000, which is, it's still a little high, but you know, when you're getting a change order, you're going to get some of that. And so we will track the hours that they put into it, and we recommend that we spend the $45,000 for the design to get the $250,000 or more for the construction. So what we'll do is we'll get an estimate, and we may even bid this as a separate item so we can get a separate cost to make sure that GDOT antes up as much as they can on this project. And
Yeah, you had brought this before us in the Finance Committee, and we asked about it, and I really wanted to pull it so that you could tell a little bit of the history. The fact that it initially came back at 60, the fact that you and Ben Pierce worked it down to 45, I think we're very appreciative of that. The problem I have, or the question I have, is going forward, when we're dealing with these folks that we're giving business to, and I know it's a change order, and that has this a little bit different. Are we keeping track of how well they're working with us on change orders? I know you have a matrix in which vendors kind of fall into, and you grade them. Is one of the part of that matrix any about how they work on change orders and how well they're willing to work with us? Because ultimately, we're the customer here. And, you know, like you said, 60,000 seemed really high. 45 seems high to me, but 60, to hear that was really high. So I just want to make sure that the folks that are doing business with the county understand who they're dealing with, is that we're the customer, and we're not here to be taken advantage of. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, contractors are always very willing to work with you on change orders. The part is to make sure that when you do the initial contract, you have something in the contract which has some costs in the contract, so when the change order comes down, basically on the construction side, and we know a change order is going to bring about so much more road or so much more curbing or sidewalk, we have those prices already in the original bid. So it's nothing more than haggling on what the quantity is. When you get into design, it's just a little bit different. You know, you get into hours and how many hours an engineer spends on a certain project. So that's a little bit grayer, but we can definitely put that in the contract to make sure we know what their standard hourly rates are. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I appreciate all you've done and continuing to do to make sure that, you know, that we're watching as closely as we can on what's being spent. I don't have a problem of approving this, and I guess do we need a motion to approve it, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Dave, originally, I can't remember. Go ahead.
Dave, now, am I understanding what you just said there, that the 45, or the number we're looking at, 45,000, is, and we keep track of what they're doing and the hours and so forth put in it? Are you saying that this could change? It could go down?
Probably not. I mean, they'll submit a pay request that says they spent 100 hours designing. You know, other than if they're meeting with us, it's hard to know if their engineer actually spent 100 hours or 90 hours.
Unless you're standing there looking at him.
Right. So, okay. I mean, you know, they will tend to, if they spend 110 hours, they seem to be good about coming back and tell us, oh, we spent 110 hours. So,
Well, the bid was 38, wasn't it? And the contingency made it 45.
Yeah,
Is that the way that things sort of go? I can't remember. But Dave, let me ask you. I mean, it seems like we've been working on this thing since I was in college, and and I can't remember, but originally it was an extended left turn, was it not? It was not always a double left, was it? Or was
We
it?
were always looking at double lefts because you can move the volumes of traffic
yeah,
that
yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
faster through the intersection. And as you know, if we can get double lefts there, that shortens the traffic cycle on the
yeah.
light, and we can move more cars through the intersection. So we like the double left. There's room on the spur for it. The other thing is just a big stack, you know. If you lengthen the queue, then it's a big stack, and then there's an accordion effect when the doggone thing turns green.
But the double left was there from the beginning.
All right, the double left was always recommended by the pond folks. They always thought that they could get GDOT would agree to that. The interesting thing was when we were at the meeting, GDOT brought it up before we brought it up. So
Divine intervention.
it was nice. So and we think it'll be a good improvement, and we are close to finishing the design. All we've got to do is work the right-of-way issues on the north side of that road. And there's really no good, unless you guys can tell me, there's really no good time to start the construction on that road. Anytime I start the construction, it's probably going to be a bad time. Unless you guys can tell me, hold off and start it at this particular time or that particular time, we're just going to move it along, and when it happens, it happens.
That sounds like a good game plan.
Let's don't start it right before Christmas here.
Correct. We will.
Did you figure doing this at nighttime?
I don't think we haven't put that in the contract yet, but I mean, the construction work's going to need to be done during the day.
Yeah,
The paving of the roads can probably be done at night, but the curbs and that kind of stuff preferably needs to be done during the day. And I think when they've done most of the work out on the spur, they've done it during the day. The GDOT has.
You know, when GDOT resurfaced 341 here about 2 or 3 years ago, man, they did that thing, I think. Did they do that at daytime or nighttime? I mean, they come right through the interstate, 341, and I mean, they plowed right through that thing and knocked it out in no time, so.
They're getting ready to finish it up here.
Yeah,
Sure.
okay. But that's got nothing to do with
No,
this.
sir. No, sir.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, did you make a motion?
Sir, I'll make a motion. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve a contract change order for the Alabama Connector Spur 25 intersection improvement project to Pond Company, Peachtree Corners, Georgia, in the amount of $45,158.20 with funding to be provided from the SPLOST 2016 fund.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave. Item 25, under general business. Consider adoption of an amendment to sections 2-13-21 and 2-13-24 of the Glynn County Code of Ordinances prohibiting persons engaged in the businesses of selling, leasing, or renting vehicles from using county parking lots, public roads, and rights-of-ways in connection with such business and for other purposes. And I thought we had amended language. Do we have amended language?
Commissioners, there's been an update to the amendment in your published agenda, or I guess the item on the agenda, which basically carves out an exception for the airport property, or if there's a contract with the county, but otherwise it's prohibited. We had a concern that was raised by the Airport Commission, just said that obviously with their Hertz and Avis when they rent it, so this would not apply to them. But otherwise, this just prohibits, a business that's in the business of selling or renting golf carts or other motor vehicles from using county property for their business. So we had an issue with that. This is a follow-up to what y'all discussed at your work session. And again, this would prohibit that from happening. It's just something in our ordinance we don't have yet. But also county parking lots, rights of way, anything that's not already prohibited in our parks. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I will say, I know y'all received an email yesterday as far as, is this, how this interplays with other ordinances we're working on, but we are working on the commercial beach ordinance, which we'll be bringing to y'all at some point in the future. But this dovetails into that, so it's a standalone ordinance that we certainly can use in conjunction with those other ordinances.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the whole purpose of this, I think, is, as we discussed at the work session, was the fact that we were having companies conducting business in county parking areas, Queens Park specifically, which is parking lot, taking up parking spaces. Basically, this makes the playing field level. If you're going to do business in Glynn County, you're not going to do it on county property. You go get your own property.
Okay, we good? Get a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the adoption of amendment section 21321, 21324 of the Glynn County Code of Ordinances prohibiting persons engaged in the business of selling, leasing, or renting vehicles from using county parking lots, public roads, and right-of-ways in connection with such business and for other purposes. Aaron, do we need to make reference to the amendment?
I think that's sufficient, Commissioner.
That's sufficient. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. We've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. That's unanimous. Item 26, consider adoption of an amendment to Chapter 2-5 of the Glynn County Code of Ordinances, revising Article 9, Glynn County Nuisance Abatement Code, to adopt and enact an entirely new nuisance abatement code, to enact a procedure for the abatement of structures that are dilapidated or unfit for human habitation and for other purposes. Mr. Worley?
Evening, Commissioners. Pam's Thompson's out of town, so I'm presenting this item to you in her stead. Right off the bat, I do want to point out a change to the ordinance that is before you right now. On page 11 of 14, line 462, there's a sentence that begins on that line that reads, "The Glynn County Tax Commissioner shall collect and enforce liens imposed pursuant to this ordinance in accordance with OCGA section 485359.1. We're going to take that sentence out of the proposed ordinance. It's not necessary. Just doing a last final check this afternoon, saw that line and thought we needed to pull it out. But like the last item that you just considered, this is an item I believe that's come to you at a work session on at least 2 occasions. Most of y'all are very familiar, we have a dilapidated structures procedure that we've been following for several years. That procedure is based almost entirely through the fire department and is based upon the fire hazard that these buildings pose to us. We have a nuisance abatement code in place now that was adopted probably 2 or 3 decades ago, and the law has been significantly updated since we initially did that ordinance. So this will get us more in line with the current state law and will provide us some more avenues for pursuing those dilapidated structures. So in a nutshell, what this ordinance does is it expands the county officials that can initiate an investigation into a dilapidated structure. Right now, it depends entirely on our fire inspectors to go out there and do that work. And this will allow the building inspector, code enforcement, and the fire inspectors to still go out and do those kinds of inspections and initiate an investigation into those structures. It kind of gives us a list of conditions that can be addressed under this ordinance. One of which is unfit, if a building is unfit for human habitation. It just means dilapidated or run down, not up to code in some way. Buildings that are used in connection with drug crimes is in the list. Buildings that pose a danger to public health because of unsanitary conditions and then we've incorporated some of the stuff that's in our nuisance ordinance, like vegetation, overgrown lots, untended yards, that sort of thing, all fall within the definition of a nuisance under this ordinance. The process for remedying these are largely the same as what we have in place now. I think as we told y'all before, Once our office gets the paperwork to file an action against one of these buildings, we go through Superior Court. That's kind of a lengthy process. Under this ordinance, we'll go to magistrate court. One of the advantages of that is under the law, the magistrate court is required to set a hearing no sooner than 15 and not later than 45 days after we serve that complaint. And so we hope that that might speed up the process in this situation. Right now, sometimes we file them in Superior Court, and it takes 2 or 3 months before we get a hearing on these things. Once we file that complaint in magistrate court and serve, everyone has an interest in the property. We'll have that hearing within no later than 45 days after we serve that complaint. The judge will enter an order, either requiring the person to repair the property or to order them to demolish it. The judge will set a time for them to do that, and then if they don't do that within time set by the judge, the county can go in and enact that remedy that's ordered by the judge. And once that time expires for that person to do it themselves, the county has 270 days to go in and do it themselves. So if the judge orders someone to demolish a structure within 30 days, that 30 days goes by and they don't do it, then we can go in and do it starting on day 31 if we want to, but we can't wait more than 270 days. And I know that some of y'all saw that 270 days in the ordinance and asked about that. It doesn't mean we have to wait 270 days. It means that's the time limit we have. And then just like our current process now, we can put a lien on the property for our costs. What this ordinance will do, though, is make that a more streamlined process. Right now, we have to go back to the court after we demolish it, say, here's how much we spent, please issue another order for our costs that we can then go and record a 5A against the property. This will just allow a county official, community development director, to send a statement to the tax commissioner saying, here are our costs related to this. Tax commissioner can put that lien on the property and then can foreclose on that lien, enforce that lien just like any other delinquent taxes. So that's kind of what this ordinance does. I'll be happy to entertain any questions y'all have about that.
Thank you, Will. Commissioner, got any questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I think this ordinance is long overdue. We've got structures here that have been sitting around for years, and they represent the epicenter of just about everything that a community doesn't want. Drug deals, prostitution, just about everything you can think of that's bad happens in these structures that are, quote, uninhabitable. And so we've got some of these things in neighborhoods that are way past due to be addressed. And this gives us a tool that at least we are looking at months and not years. And so I applaud what you've done here, and I hope that we can move this thing on tonight. And if anybody's got any more comments or questions, I'm ready to make a motion.
And Commissioners, if I could just interject real quick, just keep in mind when you make that motion that we're talking about with that one sentence that I mentioned.
Well, where did the 270 days come from?
That's in the state law.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Will, can folk use this if they're living in a house and it's a slumlord structure? There's a number of things that need to be fixed. So if they report it directly to code enforcement, or to one of us, and we send it to...
The ordinance does allow for complaint-based investigation. So as a matter of fact, the ordinance and state law says if a official gets at least 5 complaints from members of the public, then they have to go out and initiate an investigation. Now, it's not necessarily designed specifically to, as sort of a, rental property ordinance, but one of the things that the building inspectors and fire inspectors would look at are building codes, life safety codes, that sort of thing. One of the things that could happen let's just say a building inspector, they go in, they look at it. What they have to do is make a determination as to what codes are violated and what actions are required to bring it up to code. Or in the alternative, if they determine that the cost of bringing it up to code is more than 50% of the value of the house, then the court has the option of ordering it demolished. So while it certainly, I think, could in a way be used to do that, so if someone makes a complaint and said, hey, there's a lot of problems here, a lot of things that aren't up to code, an inspector could go in and see those things and say to the owner, hey, you're not up to code, you need to do these repairs. We could go to court under that. Now, the problem is you're gonna have to meet that threshold of unfit for habitation. So it's gonna have to be so bad. It can't be a few deficiencies. It's gonna have to be something so egregious that the building inspector's gonna have to say, no one can live here.
Right, but we often think that if somebody's staying there, then it doesn't meet that threshold, and there are several like that, and some people don't realize there's help for them to move.
Right.
They don't have to live like that.
Right.
But the slumlord makes them believe that, and I just was trying to find another tool for some of the folk that
Yeah,
I
I think it can be used for that, but keeping in mind that the result of that could be that those people are forced out of that home.
Well, they're almost outdoors anyway, based on the conditions of the house. And like I said, there's help here. We have a homeless coalition and folk that will help out. So, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that back when Commissioner Brunson and I started sitting in on the committee that dealt with these structures, I guess I'd call it the due process that we had to follow before we could ever get a judge to allow us to tear something down. It was like one obstacle after another, and it just ate up time. I mean, you could just throw out the word hurry, because you sure didn't get in a hurry when it come to, we could find a building we knew needed to come down, and it could be years us trying to get to the bottom of who owned it and who all the owners were and give them an opportunity to do something with it. But anyhow, not to belabor that, this is a big step in the right direction. Anything we can do to cut down on the time of once identifying a property that's a problem to getting something done about it, I think it's a big step. I know people think that we don't care about these things. I guarantee you, we've sat in a lot of meetings, and staff has spent a lot of time in their hours. And if somebody knows there's a piece of property out there, let me tell you, we probably know of it being out there too, and we're working on it, but it may not look like it. But my hat's off to staff to try to find a better process, a quicker process, so we can get some of these structures cleaned up. So I thank you for that.
If nobody's got anything else they want to add to that, I move to adopt an amendment to Chapter 2-5 of the Glynn County Code of Ordinances, revising Article 9 Glynn County Nuisance Abatement Code to adopt and enact an entirely new ordinance abatement code to enact a procedure for the abatement of structures that are dilapidated or unfit for human habitation and for other purposes, and to delete council's one line there relative to whatever that one line was that was unnecessary.
The sentence that begins on line 462 and ends on 464.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Call the motion. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That is unanimous. That's last item on the agenda. Mr. Attorney, do we have anything for executive session?
We do, Mr. Chairman. We have matters of both pending and potential litigation to discuss, please.
I move to adjourn to executive session to discuss pending and potential litigation.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's unanimous. We adjourn to executive session. Need to make a motion to come out, 7 motions.
I was fixing it.
Need a motion to come out of executive session.
Make a motion to come out of executive session.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's unanimous. We in session.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the county's recommendations regarding pending litigation. I was going to do that in a separate, well, okay. If I can do it in one, pending and potential litigation.
Second.
All right, motion and second, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That's unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the executive session minutes for June 20th, 2019.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
Move to approve the executive session minutes for September 10th, 2019.
Second.
Motion second, those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Unanimous.
And I move to approve executive session for September the 17th, 2019.
Second.
Motion second, all those in favor signify by raising your right hand.
And the executive session minutes for September 19th, 2019.
Second.
Got a motion and second, signify by raising your right hand. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.